Before you can do a whole lot of anything in Photoshop, you need to understand the concept of layers. Whenever you open an image or start a new project, you begin with a layer. The way that I like to think of it is that each layer is like a thin sheet. This one here contains my image, so it's almost like a paper photograph laid out perfectly on my screen. When I have this layer selected like so, I can make changes to it in a variety of ways. If I add a second layer, it's like adding a thin sheet of glass over the top of the first, and then I have the ability to add information to this layer. As you can see, when I add something to this layer, it covers up the layer below it, but I don't lose the information underneath it. I can move and change the elements on this layer independently without actually changing the others below it. I can add as many layers to a project as I want and add more and more information to enhance it. You also need to understand that the order of the layers is important. Where I have this layer at the very top of the list or top of the stack, that means it's the very top layer covering up anything else below it. I can also change the order of my layers by moving them around, and you can see how the information in this layer, because I moved it to the top, is now covering the information in the other layers underneath. Now that you have a basic understanding of layers, let's go back to the beginning. When you first open an image, you begin with your image layer and it's titled background. This layer contains all of the pixels from your image. And as you can see, it has a little lock icon on it, which means that it's protected and that you're limited as to what you can do to it. Also, you can see in the top part of the layers window here, all of these options are grayed out, which means that you can't use them because your layer is locked. So, to unlock the layer, you can do one of two things. You can click on the lock icon. When you do that, you can see that the lock goes away and the name of the layer automatically changes to layer 0, and the options above have now become available to use, and you're no longer limited to the few basic editing options. Or, the other way to unlock it is to double click the layer, which will then give you the option to name it. You can give it a color tag if you want, you can change the blending mode, or the opacity with this option. When you want to add a new layer, you can go up to Layer in the main menu bar and go down to New and select Layer. Or as you can see here, there's a keyboard shortcut, Shift-Command-N, which means when you press all those keys at the same time, it will create a new layer. Or you can just click this little square button with a plus sign in it on the Layers window and you'll create a new layer. Remember, adding a layer is like adding a clear piece of glass over the top of your project, and you could add elements to it without losing any of the information below it. If you want to make a layer invisible, just click on the little eyeball icon and the eye will disappear and anything on that layer will become invisible until you click the little box again, bringing the eye back and making the layer information visible. Also, you're not limited to the number of layers you can have in a project, but just as a fair warning, the more layers you have in a project, the more complex your project will become, sometimes making it more difficult to navigate, and the more energy and memory it will take your computer to run the Photoshop program. I rarely end up using more than just a few layers because it has a tendency to slow down my computer. If you want to get rid of a layer, it's very simple. You just select the layer you want to get rid of and drag it to the trash icon here, or you can press delete on your keyboard. If you want to merge two layers together, which means that you combine them into one layer, you select the layer you want, make sure it's directly above the layer you want to combine it to, and select Layer, Merge Down, or you can use the keyboard shortcut Command-E. Or if you want to merge two or more layers together, you can select as many layers as you want as long as they're next to each other by holding down the Shift key and clicking on them. Once they're selected, press Command-E and they all merge together. Guys, just like anything, it's going to be important that you practice these methods that we've gone over if you want to become proficient at them. If you have any questions, please let me know. See you in the next one.